In the realm of the Spirit, what you see with your physical eyes is never the full picture. There are realms behind the veil, and many who walk the earth are unaware that their lives are being shaped, blocked, and manipulated by invisible hands. These hands do not belong to God, nor are they directed by His Spirit. They are hands of influence, hands that carry curses, confusion, delay, and destruction. And tragically, these hands often belong to witches operating in secret. Witchcraft is not always cloaked in black robes and pointy hats. It doesn't always appear with cauldrons or chant incantations at midnight. No, the most dangerous witches are the ones who move in silence. They sit beside you at tables, smile in your presence, say God bless you with their lips, but curse your destiny in the dark. They do not need potions when words are their weapons. They do not need spells when manipulation is their method. And they do not need broomsticks when proximity is their power. Witches influence through thoughts, suggestions, emotional control, and spiritual interference. They are architects of delay, saboteurs of purpose, and assassins of peace. But many people never recognize the subtle signs of their influence. You must understand that influence is the currency of the Spirit. What you yield to in thought, you empower in life. What you tolerate, you eventually serve. And what you ignore will eventually grow strong enough to dominate you. Witches thrive in the shadows of your ignorance. Their power multiplies when you remain blind. They don't just want to scare you. They want to redirect your calling, dilute your passion, drain your energy, and derail your divine assignment. They won't always confront you directly. Instead, they embed themselves into your environment, hide behind familiar faces, and whisper through ungodly counsel. Their greatest victory is not when you fall. It's when you forget who you are. You know you are under a witch's influence when confusion becomes a constant companion. You were once clear, focused, and disciplined, but now your thoughts scatter like wind-blown dust. You start something and cannot finish. You pray, but your prayers feel like echoes. You worship, but there's no fire. The fog of indecision surrounds your mind, and no matter how hard you try, clarity slips through your fingers. That is not normal. That is not simply fatigue. That is spiritual manipulation. Witches tamper with the atmosphere around your soul until the frequency of heaven becomes distorted. When clarity leaves, deception enters. And when deception enters, the door to demonic access is unlocked. You know you're under witchcraft when relationships that once lifted you now drain you. People who once celebrated your vision now belittle your faith. Friends turn into critics, encouragers become mockers, and supporters grow strangely silent. This shift is not always natural. Sometimes witches work through people's woundedness to target your emotions. They stir jealousy in hearts. They poison minds with lies. They manipulate conversations behind closed doors. And suddenly division creeps in. Trust is broken, unity is shattered, and you find yourself surrounded but alone. That isolation is strategic, because once you're isolated, you become vulnerable. And vulnerability in the wrong atmosphere becomes a breeding ground for spiritual attack. When you notice repeated cycles of financial blockage, it may not be poor decisions, it could be spiritual interference. Witches understand that provision is connected to purpose. If they can choke your supply, they can frustrate your journey. You get opportunities, but doors close inexplicably. Money comes, but it disappears without explanation. You try to save, but emergencies erupt one after the other. You work harder than ever, yet see less fruit. That is not always bad stewardship. It's often intentional sabotage. Spiritual interference manipulates resources to exhaust your faith and to distract your focus. They know if you're broke long enough, you'll stop dreaming. And if you stop dreaming, you'll forfeit your destiny. When you find yourself constantly weary for no reason, mentally drained, emotionally heavy, physically exhausted, even after rest, this could be a sign of witchcraft warfare. It is the unseen hand that presses on your soul. It's not just stress, it's suppression. Witches operate through pressure, emotional weight, and spiritual heaviness. They burden your spirit so you can no longer discern God's voice. They exhaust your will so you stop resisting. It's not depression, it's oppression. And if left unaddressed, it opens the gate for full possession of your purpose. Your fatigue is not always natural. It's warfare dressed in normalcy, which is attack time. You look around and realize years have passed, but your life hasn't moved. You've been in the same cycle, the same pattern, the same struggle. Every time you attempt to move forward, something pulls you back. You start new things, but finish none. You plan, but nothing executes. Time is wasted, seasons are missed, and opportunities disappear like vapor. That is not coincidence, that is design. Witches bind your progress through invisible ropes of delay. Their goal is to kill your sense of urgency and deceive you into complacency. Because a delayed destiny is a disarmed threat. If they can't stop you, they'll slow you. And if they can slow you, they'll silence your impact. When you begin to lose your desire for the things of God, when you once burned for prayer but now feel nothing, when you once wept in worship but now sit unmoved, this could be the influence of witchcraft. Witches numb your appetite for spiritual things. They dull your hunger. They flood your mind with distractions. They make sin seem attractive and holiness seem extreme. They provoke questions where there once was conviction. Slowly, your spiritual disciplines weaken, your passion fades, and your fire dies. This is not backsliding, it's bewitchment. When your desire for God declines without reason, it is a sign that something is tampering with your spirit. You might also notice strange patterns in your dreams, dark figures, sexual encounters, eating food in sleep, animals chasing you, or seeing the same people appear over and over. Dreams are the language of the spirit, and when witches are targeting you, they often infiltrate your dreams. They sow fear, confusion, and spiritual contamination while your guard is down. These dreams are not innocent. They are programming your spirit. They introduce strongholds, fear, and demonic access through symbols and experiences. If your dreams have become battlegrounds, you are not just imagining things. It is a sign that your sleep is being monitored and manipulated. You begin to battle overwhelming feelings of rejection and fear of being misunderstood. Even when people love you, you feel unworthy. Even when you're included, you feel excluded. That is not just trauma. It is often a spell of rejection. Witches understand that if they can make you feel unloved, you'll isolate yourself from those who are called to bless you. They plant lies in your mind. You're not enough. They're talking about you. No one values you. These thoughts seem like your own, but they are suggestions from an invisible enemy. And once you agree with the lie, the influence gains ground. Spiritual warfare starts in the mind, and witches know how to build mental strongholds through emotional wounds. You feel resistance every time you try to pray. Your mind wanders. Your heart grows cold. Your words feel powerless. What once came easily now feels like warfare. That is not just a season. It is often a sign that witchcraft is being used to block your communion with God. They surround your spiritual atmosphere with interference so that your prayers don't flow, your authority weakens, and your discernment fades. They understand that if they can cut your connection, they can steal your direction. And if they steal your direction, they can hijack your future. You must understand these signs are not isolated incidents. They form patterns. Patterns that strangle vision. Patterns that dry up joy. Patterns that convince you to settle. And behind those patterns is always a spirit with an assignment. A spirit that uses people, pain, and pressure to gain access. But you were never created to be influenced by anything other than the Spirit of God. You were designed to be filled with dominion, not confusion. Empowered with clarity, not chaos. Destined for victory, not spiritual paralysis. But that victory begins with discernment. You cannot defeat what you will not identify. You cannot cast out what you excuse. And you cannot break what you accommodate. The influence of witches can only operate where there is agreement, whether knowingly or unknowingly. And the first step to breaking that influence is to renounce every silent agreement. Agreements with fear, agreements with confusion, agreements with isolation, agreements with compromise. You must break every tie, every covenant, every word curse spoken over your destiny. Declare war on what has been declared over you. Take authority in the realm of the Spirit. Cleanse your atmosphere with prayer and fasting. Purge your environment of every unholy alliance. Separate from every relationship that secretly sabotages your progress. Remove what God did not plant. Rebuke what God did not send. Renounce what God does not affirm. Because you were never called to be a victim of influence, you were called to be an influence. You are salt, you are light, you are a walking altar of fire. And where you go, darkness must flee. But that will never happen until you confront the hidden hands shaping your delays, until you silence the whispers that confuse your path, until you break free from every chain that did not come from God, until you stop excusing spiritual attack as coincidence, until you stop blaming your struggle on personality instead of principalities, until you stop calling oppression just life. You were born to break cycles, born to shatter curses, born to reverse atmospheres. But your birthright will remain locked until you rise in revelation, until you recognize the signs, until you expose the enemy, until you cast down the influence, until you reclaim your mind, your time, your resources, and your fire. Because what you don't confront, you will live with, and what you live with will eventually define you. You cannot play with spiritual fire and expect to walk away unburnt. You cannot entertain demonic atmospheres and expect angelic results. You cannot allow the enemy to dwell in your camp and expect God's glory to fall. If there's one thing the spirit realm respects, it is order. Divine order. Kingdom order. And as long as your life remains out of alignment, influence will continue to operate without confrontation. This is why today must be a day of decision. Not a feeling, not a moment, but a shift. A shift in posture, a shift in power, a shift in authority. Because your life cannot afford another day under the wrong atmosphere. You cannot afford another month of spiritual delay. You cannot continue to justify demonic interference with emotional excuses. You must take back your life. You must rise as the gatekeeper of your soul and declare war on what has warred against you for too long. The enemy has studied your patterns. He has observed your emotions. He has tracked your weaknesses. And every witch that has assigned themselves to your downfall has only one agenda: to dismantle your future by destroying your present. But I declare, no more. No more passive acceptance. No more tolerating cycles of confusion. No more calling it just life. No more masking spiritual paralysis with religious language. It's time to lift the veil and expose every invisible thread that's been pulling on your purpose. It's time to cancel every demonic subscription that your spirit has been unknowingly signed up for. It's time to evict every squatter that has been living in your atmosphere rent-free, draining your peace, robbing your clarity, and silencing your destiny. You are not weak. You are not helpless. You are not outnumbered. You are not under a curse that cannot be broken. You are a citizen of the kingdom of light. You are a vessel of divine fire. You are the dwelling place of God Almighty. And the authority that raised Jesus from the dead is the same authority that gives you the right to stand, to speak, to bind, to loose, and to destroy the works of darkness in your life. You do not need another prophet to confirm what God has already revealed. You do not need another dream to verify what you discerned in your spirit. You already know something is off. You already sense the weight. You already feel the pressure. And it is not just emotional, it is spiritual. The war is real. The influence is subtle. But the Spirit of God in you is not intimidated. You have authority. But authority unused is authority lost. This is not the season to be passive in your prayers. This is not the hour to be gentle with your decrees. This is not the moment to be soft with your warfare. There must be a righteous anger in your belly, a holy violence in your mouth, and a relentless pursuit of purity in your life. Because witches are not afraid of your attendance in church. They are not impressed by your religious language, but they are terrified of your revelation. When you know who you are, you become dangerous. When you realize what you carry, you become unshakable. When you stand in the authority of Christ, you become untouchable. You must go back into your environment and cleanse it. Remove every item, every token, every gift, every connection that carries residue of the wrong spirit. Some of the things you've kept in your home are portals. Some of the relationships you've held onto are altars. Some of the conversations you entertain are demonic contracts. You cannot walk in full freedom while holding hands with hidden bondage. You cannot declare deliverance while accommodating demons. You cannot command breakthrough while nurturing the very forces that delay you. You must shut the door, not close it, shut it, slam it, seal it with the blood, burn the bridges, break the ties, tear down the high places. Because half deliverance is still captivity. You don't need partial freedom, you need total emancipation. You don't need temporary relief, you need permanent breakthrough. This is the moment to rise and govern your life with kingdom precision. Your time is too valuable to be wasted in warfare that was never yours to fight. Your mind is too vital to be rented out to demonic suggestion. Your heart is too sacred to be manipulated by toxic influences. And your purpose is too critical to be sabotaged by subtle sorcery. You were created for dominion. You were born to take territory. You were designed to disrupt darkness. But to do that, you must first dethrone every illegitimate power that has occupied your soul. You must silence every voice that didn't come from heaven. You must terminate every influence that seeks to reshape your identity, your direction, or your atmosphere. Now is the time to release prophetic declarations that shift your life into divine alignment. Speak life where death tried to settle. Speak clarity where confusion tried to dwell. Speak acceleration where delay tried to dominate. And speak light where darkness tried to hide. Your words are weapons. Your voice is a key. Your authority is not borrowed, it's embedded. Heaven backs your decree. Angels respond to your command. And the enemy knows that if you ever realize what's in your mouth, he will never be able to silence your future again. Take ownership, cancel the invitation, shut down the access, and establish your atmosphere with praise, with the word, with fasting, and with obedience. Because the greatest antidote to witchcraft is alignment with the King. Where the King is enthroned, witches cannot remain. Where the word is honored, confusion cannot live. Where worship rises, manipulation dies. And where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Not theory, not theology. Liberty. This is not just a message. This is a wake-up call. This is not just another teaching. It's a clarion call to spiritual awareness. You are standing at the border of breakthrough, and everything that has fought you to this point knows that if you cross over, you will never be the same again. The enemy is nervous because you are waking up. Hell is trembling because you are rising. Every curse is weakening because your spirit is aligning. Every spell is breaking because your mouth is opening. Every delay is collapsing because your authority is activating. You are not just coming out. You are coming out with revelation, with power, with clarity, and with fire. And once you come out, you will never go back in again.